Let's define saying yes beyond the obvious. And join me on this living yesfully journey. So, what the heck does saying yes mean other than obviously saying the word yes? I think sometimes when we think about this concept of saying yes, it feels very open, which I think it is in a lot of ways, but it doesn't mean I'm so open that I'm saying yes to everything, right? I'm not overgiving, I'm not overcommitting. I'm not so outwardly focused that I'm not listening to myself and what is actually going to be supportive of me when I'm saying yes, because that's a huge part of what saying yes is that alignment with yourself and that ability to really hear what's going on and like what is actually true for you, what is actually going to be most life-giving for you. And sometimes the journey of saying yes is saying yes to saying no. Now, that's not one of my 5 things, but I think we should add that as like a bonus thing, like saying yes to saying no, which is, of course, allowing yourself to set those boundaries, allowing yourself to opt out of things that just don't work for you. That could be relationships, that could be um, invitations to things that maybe people are offering you or inviting you into or trying to get you into. It's okay to say no. It could even be, we just were in the holiday season. It could even be opting out of or saying no to the way things have been done, like a tradition. If that tradition isn't something that actually works for you or is life giving to you, you get to say yes to saying no. So we jumped ahead to the bonus, um, but I hope this is beginning to expand on this idea of like what does saying yes mean, and how can we really start incorporating that more in our life. And I know for me sometimes I can get like really enthusiastic. I'm like way up here with my energy. And so like my idea of saying yes can be like, oh, it's gonna be so adventurous and everything. But I would say even more recently, I've had the grounded experience of saying yes as well. Like it can be a high, right, of adventure and saying yes to things that are really inspiring, and that is a part of saying yes. But another part of saying yes to life is saying yes to all of life. So that includes those moments of grief or letting go. That includes closing a door on something, right? That includes those moments when something ends. Because with a beginning, there is an ending. And with an ending, there is a beginning. And it's an amazing cycle, and it can be incredibly painful sometimes. So, today, I'll tell you a story of a time recently where I was really embodying the saying yes in a painful moment. And there have been a lot of things changing in my world, partly because I'm saying yes, right? Like maybe you saw the last video where I was like, I'm going to Europe. So that was one of the highs, right? I mean, high, and then also like it's incredibly scary. So there's going to be different elements to that saying yes to adventure. And that's all part of it too. It's a process of saying yes, right? Like you say yes to something, you're like that's amazing, and then like the reality of like, oh, I got to plan all this stuff and I got to figure things out, and like, ooh, this is gonna be so like when I'm actually doing it, it's gonna be so new and potentially uncomfortable, right? Um, but along with that, like things changing, um, I was saying yes to the fact that, even before I leave, one of my housemates that's in this place is leaving for his own adventure. And it's been really sad to be in the present where there's this big change, there's this where I'm sort of losing something, right? Like losing that presence of that person in my life. It's like a daily occurrence where I see this person every day or almost every day. And then that's going to suddenly change and it's going to suddenly end. As I was walking through the forest, I was reflecting on how I was feeling about this and realizing the sadness that was really with me. And I realized in that moment, I also need to say yes to this. I'm saying yes to this, to the sadness of change, to the sadness of letting go, and also saying yes to like the celebration of the fact that this person is going on their own adventure. But he's doing that somewhere else with other people. And that's okay. And it's okay for those of us who aren't involved in that or are going through a transition of someone moving into a different thing to feel that sadness and to like let it be here. Because I think one other thing too that I was reflecting on is that they say, right, pain is an experience, but suffering is when we are resisting that experience. And so I was reflecting on the power of really being in the present moment and allowing the experience to move through. So to me, like saying yes, it involves a level of acceptance, but that acceptance is not resignation, right? Which is like a giving up, like, well, I just have to accept this horrible thing. No, it's this type of acceptance when we're saying yes, we're allowing what is occurring, is a sort of relaxing into acceptance that allows the experience to move through. And so, yeah, that is also part of saying yes. We're saying yes to all of it. Today, I was also saying yes to, I was having a lot of physical pain. I deal with chronic pain sometimes. I actually, before I even jumped on this idea of saying yes for the new year, I was already doing that for a while. I didn't even sort of cognitively realize it until recently, but I was like, oh, I've been saying yes to some radical things recently. I mean, this isn't necessarily radical, but the one I'm about to mention. But I had, through the month of December, been saying yes to 30 days of yoga. Every day. I got a membership at a local studio because yoga had been on my mind and like being more physically like active and mobile, flexible and things like that had been on my mind. And I was doing it a little bit here and there on my own. But I had the sense that I wasn't just going to be able to push myself to do it with a YouTube video. And so I was pondering this idea of like, well, I keep thinking about yoga, but is there another way to do it? And I realized I'm like, oh, obviously, like maybe there's a way to combine community and yoga. Showing up to a studio, going to classes, and there's actually a place in the town that I live that is donation based. So their monthly unlimited package was like really inexpensive. And I was sat there and I was like, I should do this. And if I'm going to do this, I want to do it in a way where it's like an actual challenge for myself where I'm showing up every day. And because I really wanted that physical challenge and the mental challenge and the relational challenge of showing up and engaging with a new community. And so I have been, other than, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, they were closed anyways. And I think one other day when, because I would say a couple weeks into the challenge, my body was really feeling it. My ankles were hurting. I had actually like in one sense, in a couple of weeks, I had lost a lot of pain. A lot of pain had been relieved because of being more flexible in my body, but then also because of that, I was experiencing some other levels of pain because it was like a lot to do all at once, and all of a sudden. And then even like today was going to be my last day, going to the class, and both of my like thumb joints hurt so bad. This one especially hurt like this. Ow. Because of, like you're on your hands a lot in yoga, like downward dog and all the things, right? So yeah, like I had to say yes to that today. And I was like, I need to not go in there in person. There was a virtual option, so I did that. But I need to do that so that because I'm home, if I'm there in person, I'm going to be pushing myself to do all the things and like push through the pain. But I really felt the sense of honoring my hands and my body by not putting myself in that scenario so I could really pull back. And I'd say like I did a little bit of it. Then I was like, you know what? I actually just let myself cry because I was just so upset about the fact that I was realizing just how much pain sometimes I experience. And it was just, sometimes it's a lot. It's overwhelming. And yet, in that moment, I was kind of also saying yes to that. There was like a lot of crying today for like various reasons. And yeah, saying yes to that. But like, look at this energy too that I'm experiencing right now, right? Like, I've been saying yes. I've been allowing and accepting the emotions as it came through for pain, for the fact that my housemate's moving out. and I'm gonna miss him. Um, but like as I allowed myself to move it through, it doesn't get stuck in our bodies. That's so important for our health and our well-being and just living. You know, when we're resisting and locking these painful things into ourselves, it really makes it harder overall in so many ways. And then to allow that yes when we want to say yes. So let's talk about when we want to say yes, um, and how to move into this journey because there's lots of ways we can say yes. And I have probably already been touching on this with the stories and the things. First way to say yes is to say yes to yourself. So, very much related to that story I just shared about my physical pain and saying yes to doing what I needed. Saying yes to yourself is prioritizing your self care, which includes rest, which includes things that give you passion, that inspire you, things that help you to find joy and fun and ease and comfort. And, and saying yes to yourself can be so many things, right? Self care can look like so many things. And I know a lot of people have expanded on the sense of self care. It can be things like offering to yourself something of comfort. It can also be having a really hard conversation when you need to have it. Like at the very beginning when I mentioned our bonus thing, that's kind of under the saying yes to yourself, right? So saying yes to saying no, setting a boundary, that could be a profound way of caring for yourself and loving yourself. Saying yes to yourself. What is like one thing this week that would be an act of you saying yes to yourself? And that could be anything from, like we mentioned, saying no, being gentle on your body in some way, or maybe saying yes to something like I did with the 30 days of yoga. Maybe you're going to join a community or like have that accountability and showing up for yourself in your body. Maybe it's putting a cap on overextending yourself in different areas of life, whether that be in relationships or work or whatever thing that you might be overextended in. Right. So what is like one way in which you could say yes to yourself? And also, what if it's really, really simple? I know sometimes we try to do grand, big things, which I'm doing a number of them right now, but I'm also doing the simple things, like caring for my hand. And then, I went and walked in nature because that was really important to me today. And I let myself cry when I needed to today. So, like, what if it could be really simple or big? What is calling for you to say yes to this week? Two, saying yes to letting go. So this also connects with what I was sharing too, right? Like I'm letting go of my housemates into the world, right? I mean, there are things where certain things will happen in our life that are out of our control, right? Like I can't choose his life for him, but even in those circumstances where something we're forced to let go of something, there's also an aspect of you being able to choose letting go because we can instead create a lot of tension in ourselves when we're unwilling to let go of something that is leaving. Like breakups, for example, especially if we're the one being broken up on, however you say that, broken up with. That can be super hard, to say the least. And there's an element too where we can be holding on to that in our mind and it clouds up so much of our thoughts and our heart. And also know that I'm never telling you to just bypass a healing process because there could be a process that needs to take place. And maybe even we're just relaxing into that idea of I also get to say yes to letting go. Whether circumstances that something outside of my control is happening or something inside of my control. Maybe I'm the one that needs to leave the relationship. Maybe I'm the one that needs to let go of a way that I'm looking at myself, right? So that can be something too that we could explore around that sense of letting go. Like what if I've been viewing myself a certain way and I've sort of got myself into this little box, but you're really feeling the tension of it because it no longer fits me, or I no longer fit the box rather. And so, maybe you're feeling that in some way. Maybe there's something about your life or something in your life that just really doesn't align with you anymore. And you can't force it. right? I mean, you can try. I have had many experiences in my life where I let go of something really huge, like completely changing my worldview, and that it involved a letting go. And there can absolutely be a grief process in letting go, and that also saying yes to that, right? Saying yes is really so versatile. And know that it can hold the complexity of situations. It can be simple, it can be complex. It can hold you, and you can hold it. The process of saying yes to letting go. Is there something that you are letting go of, right? Is it a way of being? Is it a way you're viewing yourself or criticizing yourself or judging yourself? Is it a person? Is it a place? Is it a thing? What if there was just even a little tiny yes? I'm just going to say yes to being present to the fact that this is happening. Could even be that, right? Just going to say yes to the possibility that maybe I'll be able to let go of this at some point, right? Be gentle with it. Saying yes is not about like traumatizing your nervous system by ripping off the band-aid to everything in life. Absolutely not. As you get to know me in this channel, that is not who I am, and that's not what I would promote. There are some times where a leap into a yes is definitely called for and could be very exciting. And also there's lots of ways in which saying yes can be done with a lot of kindness towards yourself. So, all of that being said, saying yes to letting go. Number 3, saying yes to opportunities, right? Okay, so this could be, for example, exploring something that is unfamiliar to you, maybe a little bit on your like comfort zone edge. For example, I showed up to 30 days of yoga. I had not been doing yoga every day, and I suddenly was. That was an opportunity, and it felt very inspiring. And then there was also like the reality of like, especially the first week where I would go and I would do a vinyasa class. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. The next day I'm like, oh, this is painful. And then maybe I'll go do a yin yoga class. One thing that was helpful is I had a lot of flexibility, so I tried out a bunch of different of the styles of classes that they had. So that allowed me to like, yes, when I had a high energy day, go and do a full flow of yoga. Or go in the evening in the quiet, like almost candlelit type style room with the slowness of the yin yoga. Another thing too, maybe I'll say about like moving into your the edges of your comfort zone. I took the opportunity to like take up space when I was in these classes, right? It wasn't always a dramatic thing, but I remember like one of the times I went to yin yoga class, I had a lot of energy within me because it was right before the holidays and I was feeling sad. It was the first year without my mom, and it was like a whole thing. And you can go watch the first video where I talk a little bit about that. So I was feeling that, sort of the grief of this moment, of this year. And with yin yoga, there is an invitation to stillness, to be like, to come into a place of stillness within these positions that are held for a long period of time. But I didn't have that within me. I needed to sort of move. So I didn't choose stillness, but I was choosing to be there, and I was choosing to do what I needed to do. And it was really interesting because afterwards, like the teacher came up to me and was like, you know, hey, I noticed that like you were having a hard time with stillness. And it was just this interesting moment of realizing that, you know, this person was kind of checking in on me and she seemed kind of confused. And it's almost like she was sort of searching for like why, you know, and there's a part of me that was saying like, you know, I don't have to explain. I can take up space. I can do something outside of maybe what a whole group of people is doing. And I can let it be okay that that might be confusing for people, or they might like have this curiosity around like what is going on for me, but I don't have to necessarily reveal that if that's something that's private. So that was like a moment of me sort of taking, even in that like conversation, it's hard to describe like how I could tell that she was like, it seemed to be a little strange for her or something. It was like, And it was really interesting because I would normally had felt the like pressure within myself to alleviate someone's tension that they might be experiencing or discomfort or something. But I didn't. I really felt this strong centeredness within myself of just like allowing the discomfort or whatever to stay with that person. That if it was strange for them that someone wasn't following the instructions exactly, that's okay. And I can still do what I need to do. So that was one time when I said yes to the opportunity of showing up to the edge of my comfort zone and taking up space and being sort of an outlier in this moment. So, are there any opportunities for you? And you don't have to say yes to all the five things, but just notice for yourself, like as we move through these five things, does one of them stand out to you? Does one of them resonate? One of them kind of light up for you of, maybe I'm saying yes to letting go of something right now. Maybe I'm saying yes to myself. Maybe I'm saying yes to an opportunity. Or number four, maybe I'm saying yes to curiosity. Ooh, I can kind of feel the energy of that one. I know I love to learn. That's a big part of like who I am and what I'm passionate about. I love learning. But I also know that there can be so much distraction in life. There can be so many things that pull our attention and feel like everything's a priority. And sometimes we're just like surviving and trying to get by, and it sort of steals that beautiful natural wonder that we all have. Perhaps saying yes is saying yes to something that you've been curious about. It can also be an opportunity to allow yourself to get a little more aware of maybe desires that you have that are a little more hidden, right? So maybe they feel taboo, or maybe they feel outside of the image of you that you've created and you've presented to the world. Maybe the desire feels just like strange to you, like scary to you, because you're like, oh, like I do have this little desire over here to like explore. I'm curious about this thing, but like that sounds terrifying. Or maybe you have a curiosity just about anything. Maybe you don't have fear about your curiosity, but maybe it's just an opportunity to explore in this moment, like, what am I curious about? And what if it even could be, again, like it can be simple or it could be complex. It could be the simplicity of having more wonder throughout your day. Like, how could I have more wonder throughout my day? How could I take a moment to be curious about this tree outside my window? And, have I really looked at it? Have I explored it with all my senses? I mean, maybe not taste. Or I'm not gonna eat the tree, but like have I explored it with my senses in a way? Have I gone out there and met the tree? Do I know what the bark feels like? Have I touched the leaves? Have I smelled the foliage? Have I leaned up against it? What are the other senses? have I have I listened to what the wind sounds like as it moves through and around this tree? I mean, if you want to taste the tree, go ahead. As long as it's not a poisonous tree. But maybe don't eat berries, especially red berries. But proceed at your own risk. Um, but yeah, so like there's something too, right? That could be like so simple. It doesn't mean you have to go buy a course on something, or you could if you wanted to. Is there something that's been just inspiring a bit of curiosity for you? And what if you said yes, just taking a step in that direction? And you can take the step that feels most accessible to you. A lot of this journey of saying yes, this living yesfully, is so grounded in you trusting yourself and you being the director, creator, orchestrator of your life, that you get to choose and you get to do it in a way that you want to. And then lastly, five. The fifth way in which we can say yes, I mean, there's so many, obviously, but the last one we're going to talk about today is saying yes to presence. And we've touched on this throughout all of what I've talked about today. And maybe you've already been thinking about this because a lot of these pieces involve presence. And so that's that sense of really embracing this moment right now. Right now, you're listening to me. Hi, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for being here. Um, I want to connect with you. I would love to hear about how this has resonated with you in the comments. That would be a beautiful thing. Um, and also, like, what else in this moment can you be present with? Actually, let's do an exercise if you're willing. This is a grounding exercise that I used to teach people when I was doing mental health coaching. And so, like, if you're ever experiencing like a lot of anxiety and stuff like that, this is also helpful for that. But what it does, it connects you in with your senses. It moves you out of like the thinking, anxious brain into your body. And what's really cool about this is that, okay, your mind can be in the past, in the future, worry about things. It can be in the present if it wants to, but often we're somewhere else, right, in our mind. But our body can only ever be in the present. And so when we draw our awareness down into our body, it grounds us almost instantly into the present. And in the present is where you have your power. This is where you can choose. This is where you are, right? So let's take a moment and we'll just do a quick little exercise. Take this with you into the future if you would like. But this is called the 5 4 3 2 1 exercise. And you can always make this simpler if you want. Just do one of each of these things. But traditionally, it's the 5 4 3 2 1 exercise where we move through our senses. So the first thing we're going to do before we even close our eyes and all that goodness is we're going to use our eyesight. So maybe take a breath. Even just one breath is an act of becoming present with yourself. So becoming aware of our sight, we're going to look around the space that you're in and you're going to notice 5 things. Now, it could be something like you're noticing 5 things that are green, if you like themes. It could be 5 things that are shiny, or it could just literally be just 5 things. It doesn't have to be complicated. So just take a moment now and say with your mind, like to yourself or out loud, the 5 things that you're noticing. I'm noticing these flowers that are on my desk. I'm noticing the space heater in the room. I'm noticing the plants by the window. I'm noticing this colorful shawl that I have. I'm noticing the color of my pants. Bonus, I'm noticing the texture on the wall. Okay, just notice what happened. I instantly feel more settled. I don't know about you. And so now we are going to move into our sense of hearing, And we're going to look for 4 things that we hear. So at this point, if closing your eyes feels good to you, I would invite you to close your eyes. And then just begin to listen in to see what you hear. And one of them right now is my voice. Maybe you hear a fan. Maybe you hear silence. And I'll stop talking. So, 1 second. Maybe you hear ringing in your ears, like I do. But just taking note, and it's okay if you don't have 4. Like if it's truly like completely silent, that's okay. Maybe you hear your own heartbeat or your breathing. So I'll give you a moment and just notice up to 4 things. Now we're moving into the sense of touch. And you're going to begin to bring your awareness to what you can feel. And you're going to notice and acknowledge to yourself 3 things that you feel. And it could be anything from what the temperature feels like. Is it cold? Is it warm? Is it neutral? You could notice what your shirt feels like on your body. Noticing what your pants feels like on your legs. Noticing maybe the pressure, if you're seated, of your body connecting with the ground or a chair. Just noticing, taking note of 3 things. And now bring your awareness to your sense of scent. What can you smell? And you may or may not smell 2 different things, but just allow yourself to notice and acknowledge and become aware of up to 2 things. Maybe your room just has the general room smell, or maybe you have some sort of scent that you can smell. Perhaps a perfume, an essential oil, a dog. Whatever's around you, what do you notice? Just take note of 2 things, up to 2 things that you can smell. And then finally, bring your awareness to the sense of taste. Bring your awareness to your mouth, noticing what you can taste. And it could just be your general mouth taste. Taste nothing. That's okay. That's what you notice. Or maybe you drank something recently or ate something recently and the taste lingers and you're just noticing. And then this next couple breaths, thank yourself for joining me in this practice of becoming a present to your senses. Maybe take a moment and just acknowledge to yourself, take note of what did that do for you. It's okay if it did nothing, but it might have done something. Notice. Allow yourself to become aware of. How do I feel in my body? Is it different? How do I feel in my mind? Is it different? Or the same? Notice if you had any sighing happen. So when our body does like a sigh, it's a great sign that our nervous system is relaxing. So you're just noticing. You said yes to being present. Look at that. I wasn't even intending to have you actually say yes to the thing right now, but you did it. What was that like? Was it great? Was it good for you too? So, yeah. Yay, that's cool. So those are the 5 things. These are 5 ways in which you could say yes. They are invitations. Perhaps you're going to explore one of them this week. You already just did one if you made it all the way to the end of this video. Also, give yourself a little star. Put a star in the comments, which is for you, for making it to the end of this video. You know, come back and let me know what you said yes to. I would love to hear and celebrate with you. I also invite you, like maybe you saw the video where I was making an update about how I have a landing page for livingyesfully.com. This is part of like me saying yes, being present with my desire to create instead of consume. And so with that, if you wanted to go to livingyesfully.com, you can sign up to the newsletter. Along with that, you get a free Living Yesfully workbook. So more things to explore if you'd like to, especially if you like writing. It gives you a lot of writing prompts to look at different elements of saying yes in your life. And yeah, so that's a free gift. If you would like to join me in the journey in that way, awesome. Or just join me here on this channel. So up to you. Choose your own adventure. So thank you for being here. I will be back soon with more Living Yesfully videos and also updates on how I'm saying yes. So join me on the journey.